every fan has their own version or their own idea of what a certain character looks like, whether it's based on the comic books, a actual story, a movie, or an animated show. We all have our own version that is the first one that we think of when somebody mentions that character. Now, for me, I love Spider-Man. Duh. I think that's pretty obvious on this channel, or it will be. And for me, I love the 90s Spider-Man animated show. That was the version of Spider-Man I grew up with. That's the one I think of when I think of these characters. Those iterations, those voices. I love that show so much. It's my favorite one. I love it more than X-Men. I love it more than Batman. But that's because I love the character more than those. Not that those shows are bad. They're great. But Spider-Man's my guy. That's the show I like. So when I was younger, I didn't get the opportunity to collect all the Toy Biz era figures. I got a few of them. I did get a bunch of, I had the play set at one point. I still do. It's over here. But I've been able to go back and get a bunch of the old Toy Biz figures, and I love it. I just recently got the Spider Slayer, and that thing's pretty cool too. So I was happy and excited when Hasbro announced that they were doing retro figures for the 90s animated show for Spider-Man. Now, I haven't gotten all of them because they can get a little pricey at times, but I recently got the full wave of the most recent retro Spider-Man figures because in this set, it was basically like, yeah, I'm going to want all of them, so let's just get them all and it'll be great. So, for the first time on the channel here, I'm going to do something that I'm not exactly sure how well this is going to go. Not a huge fan of this sometimes, but we're going to do an unboxing. And we're going to look at these figures and see how much or how well they represent the characters from the old show. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this unboxing of the 90s Spider-Man retro figures. First up, we have the Hobgoblin. Wait, there's no figure. There was a figure. I just got very impatient and wanted to take one of these out of the packaging already. Because that's one thing I do love. I love opening the packagings. I love taking the figures out of the plastic for the first time. I just really enjoy that. And for me, I've always felt figures are meant to be displayed or played with, especially as a kid. I mean, I've got a couple figures I broke as a kid. But I love this packaging. I love how it's the retro design with the animated versions of the characters here. I love how they still have this type of thing that they did with the old ones back in the day. Now, of course, you only have the rest of the figures in the wave here, whereas with the older ones, you had all of them that were out at that point. But if you look closely at this, there, I bet you couldn't tell that I took the figure out or that it's messy. The only reason you know I did is because, well, duh, figure's not in there. That's because I really don't want to have to get a second one. As you can see, I don't really have any room to display them on the wall. Plus, I just think it's dumb to spend money twice on something unless you really, really love it. And then I don't have to explain it to other members of my family as to why I randomly have two or why I decided to get two. But this way, if I ever do decide to sell these, which I'm pretty sure I won't, I can put it back in packaging. I won't say it's in mint condition, but at least it'll look good and easy to transport. So let's take a look at the actual figure itself. I wanted you to see what it looks like when I take something out of the packaging. So here is the Hobgoblin figure himself. I think he looks not too bad, actually. Hobgoblin's not one of my favorite villains, though I do like him more than I like Green Goblin because he's not used as much. The color scheme, I think, looks really good, especially for the animated version, except, of course, for his face. His face doesn't look screen accurate, and that is a little bit disappointing. But they did a good job with the coloring, I think. The cape looks good, except for, I don't know, like so many people say, I don't know why they did a shredded cape. It just doesn't make sense to me. But I like that we got a satchel. I think that looks really good. Now, that didn't come on him. I had to do that myself. Which, the one thing I did like about this figure is you don't have to pop his head off. You can just take his hood off like so. That way you have the hood. And if for some reason you want to, you can just have this Hobgoblin head. Don't know why you would, but it's kind of neat. Plus, you can take the cape off that way too without popping his head off. And that's how you can easily put the satchel on. So, you just do it in reverse to put it back on here, obviously. Now, a lot of people have commented about his head sculpt. And I agree. Head sculpt definitely could have been a lot better. There could have been more shading for this character to really make it look like the animated version. And they definitely could have given us a better glider. I thought people were exaggerating with this thing. They're not. Because when you try to put him in, A, there's no peg holes for him to get pegged into. And his feet really don't want to spread well that way. So you hold him like this, I don't think it's too bad. But the minute you try to do that, yeah, doesn't stay on his own. So definitely would have liked a different glider. When I display this one, I might just leave him separate with the glider beside, or maybe I'll put him up against a wall so that he can't fall back with the glider. As far as accessories go, he does come with a pumpkin bomb. And while I will say this pumpkin bomb's kind of cool, you can't hold it. You just can't. Well, of course, now that I say that, he will. Nope, there it goes. But what would have been nice was if they would have given us some way to peg the pumpkin bomb in. That would have been great. But overall, I don't think it's a terrible figure. I definitely don't think it's as bad as some people say, but then again, everybody has their own villains that they love, and some people just love this guy so much they want the exact accurate one. Now that would be great. I would love animated, accurate to a T figures. I would buy all of them, which I probably will anyway. But to me, this guy doesn't look too bad. Overall, for a guy who is not one of my favorites, but one that I do enjoy. From a distance, he does remind me of the animated show, and that's all I really want. Well, since we've got 3 Spider-Man figures and 3 villain figures, we're going to rotate. And the first Spider-Man we're going to do is the Spider Armor Mark 1. Now, this armor did appear in the show at the very end of the series, which I really like that. But he looks really good. The metal, I like how they sculpted it. It looks very crisp and it's clean. I like these web effects, but as I've seen in other people's videos, these, yeah, I'm pretty sure are going to be useless unless you just want to set them around. But he looks really good in the packaging. I like the art here. You've got the back, you've got the same idea with the rest of the wave. You've got the actual cover art there, which I believe, nope, it's not different from the front. So yeah, I'll show you how I take these out of the packaging. I slide my finger very carefully in the bottom here so that I'm only separating really the very top layer. And then I very carefully take this. Well, you got to get as much around the edge as you can. As you can see, that still looks pretty good. And slowly try to pop this guy out like so. Push some things back, and there. Looks good. And you've got your figure out of the packaging, because this is flimsy, so this is easier to bend to get out of the packaging. So let's take a look. Okay, there we've got the Armor Spider-Man. Now, I think this must be, like I've seen people say, this is the normal Spider-Man body mode. But I love, you can look closely here. They do have engraved, they didn't black them, like make them webs, which is fine. But it looks really good, feels nice. You've got the back spider emblem here, again raised. And all these figures are pretty much going to move the same way. I'm not a huge person who cares too much about articulation, except when you go from something like this to like the figure I have here that you can't see too well, that has like 11 points of articulation compared to this one. But you've got foot, you've got knee joint, and I think this works great because you can hide the pins or use his armor here as the joint, you know, full up, back, side, and then you do have joint here. You got elbow joint, hand joints or wrist joints, and then the head can move all the way around. Looks up okay, can look all the way down for the most part, or good enough. So that's how most of these figures will move, with the exception of like if they have the hood, kind of like the Hobgoblin. He doesn't really look down too much. Well, it looks down better than I thought. Definitely would look better if you took the hood off. But so no, I really like the look of this guy. Not quite sure how I'm going to display him, if I'm going to leave the fists on or use the web hands here that you get. You do get 2 of them, because I really do love the gripping hands, and that's how I have most of my Spideys displayed. But I don't know, maybe I'll just put one on. I'm not sure. Like I said, you do get 2 of them, as you saw. And then we get these web effects. Webbing is great, but yeah, I really don't know how these were supposed to be useful, other than just lay on the villains somehow. Like, oh, there, I got you. I mean, I guess if you want to do that, you could. Honestly, the one I want is, here's webbing your eyes figure. That would be great, especially for a Doc Ock, because I love that episode. That one stays so well in my head, where he just goes, here's webbing your eyes. And Doc Ock's there trying to peel it off. It's just funny. Anyway, back to the figure. And then you get this other one. Again, this could go in the face, I guess. That could be webbing your eyes. But a very solid figure. I definitely like the look of it. So, yeah, I can definitely recommend this one. Next up, we have Hammerhead. Now, I think Hammerhead had a bigger part in the show than I remember, or than most people might think, because he was the head mob enforcer for pretty much everyone. I know he worked for Kingpin at one time, he worked for Silvermane, and we never got a Toy Biz figure of him, I think. At least not one that I've seen. So the fact that we have one, that alone is great. I do wish that right off the bat that we got another head, maybe one that fit the show more, because in the show he's like that. He really doesn't have, you can't really see his eyes except maybe in close-ups. But like I said, the fact that we have a figure based on what he looked like in the show for the most part is great. I mean, this isn't the exact design of him, and he would wear different shirts, but I'm pretty sure that a mob enforcer would have many shirts, so that's okay. You can see we have a bat here, because we can't have any other type of weapon in these packages. Though, kind of wish we could have one of the guns like what Chameleon had, or what Kingpin would use, or even for Hobgoblin, keep coming back to him, to have his gun. That would have been really cool, I think. But anyway, so there's Hammerhead. Back of the packaging is the same. Figures in the wave. bio, his gimmick, like they have on all the other ones, which this is only here, I think, to be the retro part of it. Because, oh my gosh, you can switch his hands out for a bat. That's so incredible. Yeah, that's not really an action when we're talking about with these types of figures. But got a full picture of him on the back there. And yeah. So I'm going to get this out of the packaging because I don't think you want to sit through another minute of me trying to open these things. And we'll be right back. So here's Hammerhead out of the packaging. And he does have the articulation, like I said, for most of the other figures, though it's a little stiff. Yep, see, stiff, but you can do it. Just be careful. This is why I don't like moving some of these figures around too much. Does crouch there, but he doesn't really have a upper thigh crunch here, or chest crunch because of the suit. That's perfectly fine. Head moves around. Look down, up. I guess you can get him in the headbutting position or ramming position, and that doesn't look too bad. It's funny, but it doesn't look too bad if you know the character and know the show. Man, I will say these really are stiff joints down there, so be careful with that. But yeah, looks good. Like the crisp clean on his vest. The lines are good. Pants are good. Definitely looks like a guy you do not want to meet in an alley. Especially when you give him his bat. Which doesn't have anything on it. Kind of like the Harley Quinn one has stuff on it. But just solid brown bat here. Would have been nice for something else. He does come with his knuckles, his knuckle dusters, I think they're called, right there, which is kind of really neat little detail. And it does say head on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that one on because I like it. And we're going to pop this hand off. Pop his holding hand on. So, give him the bat. Batter up! He's ready to play baseball. Oh, I mean, or I guess he's ready to smash some heads in as well. And he looks good with it. Bend it back. Yeah. I think he looks pretty good. Like I said, it might have been nice to have a different head sculpt as well. Not exactly the same as the animated series, but I'll take it. Again, another figure, another character that I'm like, cool. Not one of my favorites, not top 10, but I'll take what I can get. And it definitely will look nice in my 90s Spider-Man cabinet with all the other ones. And now we come to the half of the list that I would have gotten these figures no matter what. These were the ones I really, really wanted. And to start off, we have Symbiote Spider-Man, or Black Costume Spider-Man. And I have to say, just by looking at him in the package, he looks great. This is definitely one that I think, if I had the extra money, or if I had a real desire, I would buy another one and hang it on my wall. Like I said, especially if I had the space, that would be key, and the money. But I just don't have that. So I've got one. He looks great. I'm happy to have a new one, especially one that looks like the animated one to a certain degree, except, of course, for this kind of blue highlights that are on the picture here. I mean, I do wish they could have done like they did with the Venom one, which has blue and red on both sides. Looks much more show accurate. Not great, but it looks really good. That would have been nice here, but it's a solid figure. You don't have the Toy Biz gimmick that they had back in the day where you pulled the middle part out of his chest and he would just crawl right up it and made a noise. So it's great to have a solid looking black suited Symbiote Spider-Man based on the animated show. And there are definitely things I know are not exactly screen accurate, but we'll get into those then. Back of the packaging, exactly the same. No real difference here except for the character. So, let's open this thing up. And here we have Symbiote Spider-Man out of the packaging. Overall, I'd have to say probably a very simple figure to do because the main body is black. And then you just got to put the white on for the eyes, the spider, and a little bit on his wrist there. But yeah, overall, it's a very good figure. I don't have another Marvel Legends Black Suit Spider-Man, so I really do like this one. It's very well done. There are some issues you can see from where it probably came out of the mold and they didn't sand it or file it down enough. I don't know how they do that. So there are some rough spots. Especially on the white with the spider. There are a few issues. I don't know if you can see, but right there on the back, there's a little bit of missing paint. And the one spider antenna or whatever they have has an issue. But when you look at it from a distance, there's really no problems with it. You're not going to see it. So nothing that I'm going to get upset about. The eyes look great. I do wish maybe if we had gotten another head sculpt, you know, maybe get a more focused, narrow eyes so you could have a tougher, an angrier Spider-Man. Especially one you could do when he's fighting a villain, like our next person up on this list. I do like how with this body type, you really can get a lot of the muscles in there. You get the texture of it in there. And it works really well, especially when you know that this is a symbiote. So it's a skin-tight outfit. So all that would be very evident and it would be very easily seen. I will say I do wish that maybe we'd gotten different hands here, that you would get this small patch of black that we get in the show from him shooting out his webs. And that would have been a perfect way to get webs into this package that actually would be useful. Stick them in there, would look great. But yeah, overall, I really like this figure. He does come with, like you saw, 2 pairs of hands. He comes with web ripping hands. So nothing that we haven't had before. Again, don't know which ones I want to put on him. And we have a pair of wall crawling hands. But yeah, a very solid addition. Looks very good. The only other difference, like I mentioned earlier, would be a little color tone difference. Maybe a little blue, little other color change in there to make it look like the animated show. And that would have been perfecto. But for what it is and what I need, I am very happy with this. So let's move on to the final villain in this wave. The final villain in this wave is in my top 5 favorite list when it comes to Spider-Man villains ever, and that's the Shocker. I love this character. He's such a simple yet interesting character in my opinion, and I think he's very underrated. Now, yes, we got him in Spider-Man Homecoming, but that wasn't really the Shocker that I wanted, but I'm just glad that we got him at some point. But anyway, I love this character in the animated show. And while this is definitely more of a comic book Shocker, because looking at pictures from the animated show, the browns here was pretty much more black, or if not black, the darkest brown you could find. And the yellows were much darker as well. But I don't have the Toy Biz one. I still would love to get that. So the fact that now I have a Shocker in my collection, it's just, I'm so happy to finally have one. And in the packaging, he looks really good. There's really nothing wrong I can see with it. I mean, would it be nice to have a much more show accurate one, like with all these figures? Sure. But it's Shocker, and I finally have one. And that's all I really need right now. Again, really quick, same thing on the back. And gimmick, change out hands. Yeah, not really a gimmick in my opinion. Anyway, let's get this old Shocky out of the packaging and see what it's all about. And here's good old Shocky out of the packaging. I'm sorry, Shocker out of the packaging. And yeah, you don't really notice it in the packaging, but you take him out, and man, they did a really good job sculpting this thing. I mean, the lines that they got into his costume is great, which I probably would have been one of those people that was like, no, you should have the black lines. But no, it actually looks really good without. It looks much cleaner and actually looks better. But then you look here at the vest on his costume and up here on his mask, and I'll see if you can get a better look at him. They have really good texture here, which actually makes it look like brown leather, and that's just fantastic. His belt, good solid silver. Doesn't move at all, so that's good. The gauntlets, yeah, they look fantastic, though, even him holding it. The eye holes, yeah, looks just like Shocker. I mean, it might have been nice if they were a little bit bigger, because in the animated show, you can actually see Shocker's eyes. But this actually makes more sense. The more I think about it, having the smaller eye holes actually makes a lot more sense for the character. Now, something I have noticed with all these figures that I've opened up, and I noticed it again with Shocker here, you want to be really careful when you bend their arms for the first time, when you bend their legs, because it's very, very stiff and you don't want to break it. I mean, I'm nervous just doing what I'm doing. So yeah, you definitely want to be careful with these figures, especially the ones that have thicker legs, it seems, because those are the ones that get stuck more often. I don't really seem to have any real issues with this one. There's no real bleeding as far as I can tell. Well, maybe there's a little bit right in there. Don't think you can probably see that. But yeah, I'm very happy with this Shocker figure. And let's see what the accessories he came with. Extra pair of gauntlets, one for each hand. They look really good. And some reusable blaster effects. I feel like these look more like magic effects that we've had before. So let's see what it looks like with these effects on. Going to take off one of his hands, one of his arms there. Put another one back on. The correct one this time. So there you have one fist, one open hand. And then you just slip it right on his arm there. I guess you do it down here. So it looks like that. I don't think I'm going to display them with these pieces, though. They look weird to me. I would have preferred if there was one that you could actually, like, put out here, or have, like, a blast effect coming out, you know, like the ones you get with Iron Man, or a blast effect that you might get for jet propulsion boots, or a Captain Marvel figure. But either way, I like the look of both these hands. And yeah, that's a really solid Shocker figure. I really like it. The final figure in this wave is one that I really enjoy. I love this character. I think he's underrated. I think he's unappreciated. I think fans give him a very bad rep because of the storyline he was in. And that is Reilly Spider-Man. I love this character. And as far as an alternate actual Spider-Man suit, not one that is totally different like the symbiote or the armor one or the Iron Spider, but one that's actually half decent compared to the original, I love this thing. I think this is a great alternative for the original costume, and I think they did a great job capturing the look of it. Now, Ben Reilly wasn't technically ever in the animated series. I mean, he was as the Scarlet Spider, but this costume never appeared. And from the card art here, I'd have to say, yeah, I think they nailed it. I think this is how he would have looked if he'd ever shown up in this costume. And the figure, again, looks great. But it's nothing that we haven't seen before with these Spider-Man figures. You got this, you got wall crawling hands, you got gripping hands. It would be really nice to get something else, something different with these Spider-Man figures. I mean, with Ben Reilly, you could have given him a different head. But anyway, so there's Ben Reilly. There's the back of the packaging again. Nothing new that we haven't seen. So, let's get this last one open. It's going to break my heart that I'm not going to have any other ones to open, but let's get old Ben Reilly here out of the packaging. And here's Ben Reilly out of the packaging. And like I said before, I love this suit. It's my favorite alteration to his original costume. I just think it looks so great. It keeps great aspects of that original one that we love, while also making it new. Now you might be asking, Peter, what about the symbiote costume? Don't you love that one? Yeah, of course I love this one. But I don't consider this one to be an alteration or a different version of this costume, because it's totally different. I mean, sure, the masks are kind of the same, but this is a whole new costume. It has no real variation on the original. This one does. So that's why I say this is my favorite variation of that costume. But anyway, yeah, he looks great. I mean, the attention to detail, even the slightest bit, is fantastic. You look at the web shooters here. I don't know if you can make it out, but they actually have little lines here to distinguish where the web shooters are. They didn't have to go into that detail while sculpting it. They could have just given us silver bands and been done with it. But no, they took the time to give us those little marks to show, hey, these are the web shooters. Something I really appreciate. I think they did a great job of showing us where the costume changes from the blue to the red on the boots. I think that looks fantastic. Now, of course, some people will be like, it's not pinless. This doesn't match up. Yeah, I don't care. Because when you have them standing there, or you just have them displayed, you can't really see them. But I think the web design is great on the figure. I think they did a great job up here. The main spider logo is fantastic. Now, of course, you have to get it just right if you want the legs to match, because you move it slightly, like you do here in the back. Sorry. It doesn't line up. You've got to take the time, and there's only one way that it will actually look perfect. And then also when you have them bend forward and you bring them back up, the spider doesn't necessarily line up. But again, these are all nitpicks, things that I could care less about. I just like the look of the figure. I love getting another Ben Reilly in my collection. And yeah, he looks great. I just love the fact that Ben Reilly is getting a little bit more appreciation than he used to have. So, yeah. I love this figure, and I think it's great. And here we have the complete wave of the most recent retro Spider-Man figures that came out. Overall, I'd say it's a really good release. There's not really one of these figures that I would say, do not get, it's totally crap. Though, there are one or two that have more issues than others. But overall, I just like them. I like the look of them. I like to have these characters. I like collecting. And I just think they look great. I'm happy that I bought them, and I'm happy they're going to be on my shelf displayed. As far as which one in the set is my favorite, I'll be honest, after looking at these really closely, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but Shocker is my favorite. This is the one that I highly recommend. If you can only get one, get the Shocker, because the detail on him is fantastic. The leather looks great. This is just an excellent Shocker figure. Now, if you were only going to get one Spider-Man figure, well, I'm going to say get Ben Reilly. But again, that is me being biased because I love that version of the character and I love that suit. So how would I rank these? Which figures are my favorite and which ones are my least favorite in this set? Well, this definitely surprises me, but my favorite, like I said, is Shocker, followed by Ben Reilly. And then, I'll be honest, it's a toss-up between Black Suit Spider-Man and the armor one, because I want to say Black Suit, because it's Black Suit, it's Symbiote Spider-Man, one of the best versions ever. But the detail in this guy is just so good, especially with the back emblem raised. I can't recommend it enough. So if I'm going with how good they look and which one I probably would actually recommend, I'd say the armored one, followed by Symbiote, then Hammerhead, then Hobgoblin. But hey, if you're already looking at getting half the wave, I can recommend just get the whole thing. I don't think you'll regret it. But what do you think? What do you think of these figures in this new wave? Do they look good? Are you going to pick them up? Are you only going to pick certain ones up? Which animated figures that we haven't gotten yet, which characters would you like to see them do? For me, I can't really think off the top of my head. I got Shocker. I'm really happy about that. And we got Mysterio. Those are the ones that I was really looking forward to. So, you know, maybe a new Lizard. I might join that crowd. But anyway, comment down below. Let me know what you think of this video. Like I said at the beginning, this is my first time doing this, so I didn't know exactly how to do it, but let me know what you thought of it down below. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And until our next class, our next session, read what you love, enjoy what you love, and let's all work for a better fandom. I'll see you next time.